Hello and welcome to The Divephoria, which is a special crossover episode of The Dive and EUphoria, some weird podcast I've never heard of.
It, yeah.
I'm Jat with Kobe, Azael.
I heard of it.
I am
It's
done
garbage.
already. I am out of here.
Yeah, it's off to a roaring start. That's Deficio, that's Drakos on the end. They're in Los Angeles. Apparently, Rift Rivals is happening in a couple of days.
Oh, yeah.
So we figured
That's
we
why
may
we're
as
here.
well.
Why are you all acting so confused? Like
agree.
you don't know anything.
Well,
Yeah.
look, it's
I don't know.
really nice. I think that we've done our
Don't know
little
why I'm
EU outreach
confused.
program to be charitable to less fortunate regions, to give them a chance to talk about good League of Legends.
It's true. And
Yeah.
Splice. Starting it already.
That's one thing I think we could all agree on. But
That's the thing that brings us together,
exactly, it's unity. But I think you guys are forgetting what happened last year. I don't know if it is the EU outreach program. I thought this was like
What
some sort of
happened?
training camp. We're bringing over the farm teams.
I'll
seeing if
do
there's
a
any new
review
EU
for you. What
talent,
happened?
maybe.
We went over to Rift Rivals, and the whole time that our teams were playing, Deficio was just shocked, and he was like, "Oh my god, this complex North American strategy of playing around mid lane."
You're telling me the jungler can go to the mid lane?
And we're like, "What? That's not even our guys."
That's actually
In
true.
our
They ganked mid a couple times. Whoa!
In our defense,
That
we,
makes it a 2v1.
we had never seen that before. That was really new for us. That was just not something we were used to experiencing.
No, but here's the thing about European teams is they learn something, and then after a couple of weeks they forget it again until someone will do it against them. Because like we had in our playoffs, the same year, Misfits ganking mid against Fnatic.
Okay.
We were like, whoa, it happened again. But then they've all forgotten it now and they don't do it.
All right, this episode,
Oh, we're not
we're
doing
still
the
doing the
intro.
intro. Yeah. This is going to be a tough one. We're talking about Rift Rivals, and that's pretty much it. But at the start, we have a game that Drakos wants to play of Would You Rather, and we're also going to talk about the Meteos Trade. So what is your Would You Rather
All right, so
question
we have
for us?
one today. This is a game we played exactly
I
one
thought we
time
had
on
two.
Euphoria. We only have the one this time.
It sounds suspiciously like this or that, but it's
you may
called
have noticed
Would You
they
Rather.
already said this before
we
we
like
went
to
live.
share ideas in EU. We're big on sharing. So,
Yes, okay.
we're not going to call it plagiarism, but we'll call it sharing, okay? Positive terminology. So here's my would you rather. Would you rather be a world's contender on a top team in EU or overvalued on a 9th place NA team?
Overpaid.
What do you mean? Because
Yeah.
overvalued
Overpaid.
is
Overpaid.
very-
Say overpaid.
Fucking
Don't
overpaid.
hide it, man.
Give me some numbers here. How much money
Yeah.
am I making in EU, and how overvalued am I
Money
in
in
NA?
you is not relevant here. You get paid way too much money
Also,
for being on a
define
ninth place
world's
team.
contender.
Yeah.
You go to Worlds.
You go to Worlds, and people look at you, and they would call you a world-class mid laner. And I don't mean like you showed up to
Perks.
Worlds.
Yeah.
I mean like
So now I'm
So
a
you're
mid
telling me
laner.
on perks.
Cap's MSI performance, let's say, or the Perks MSI performance. We only do good at MSI, you may have noticed with our mid laners.
G2 and 8.
or do
Mid-laners
you
are
want to
still
be on a 9th place NA team?
But you're paid a lot.
Man,
I think you're referring to a specific EU mid laner.
I don't know why you said mid laner. It
Also,
can be any player.
I think you have this rose-tinted view of being on a 9th place NA team. They get flamed hard.
But that's
Like,
the thing.
all
That's the
time.
trade-off. Do you want to get flamed all the time but earn a lot of money?
Again,
go to
you gotta
Worlds.
put numbers on like how much is this mythical NA salary
Yeah.
that's gonna be
Are we talking about impact? I'm making $1 million
$1
a
million
year versus
more?
like
Because the 9th place guys are not making that.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
What?
Well, this is the problem, is I don't have the numbers. If Kobe has the numbers, it's a lot harder to make this would
We've
you
already
rather.
hit a pretty big speed bump here with the
Yeah.
European game.
You
that
guys
they
ruined
brought
it real
over.
hard.
So here we go. I'd rather be the European world's contender because the next year I'll be able to go to a better NA team
I knew that was
than
gonna
the
be the
9th
answer.
place, and I'll be making that fat impact salary.
Actually, yeah, Sven and Mithy are the answer for your game there.
That's true.
There's actually a lot of right answers. Pretty much every, I think, export recently. There's been a Mythy. PoE's a favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely going to Worlds. With that team, that's for sure.
Look, guys, we haven't watched NA at all this year. Can you tell us? PoE's still doing good, right? He's still trucking. He's still
They're doing better this year
Optic
than
is first.
than
They're
They're 2 and
Split.
4. Yeah, they're 2 and
Optic's
4.
first place, bro.
Looking up.
international competition worthy.
Yeah,
then
you'll
with
see.
the 2
You'll
and
see.
4
You never know
scoreline.
what's going to happen in the NALCS. Okay.
All right, that
so,
one sucked.
one bit of news that we actually have is yesterday or 2 days ago, since we're filming this on a Tuesday, we heard that Meteos got traded to FlyQuest. And it was interesting only because his first tweet was right after they had gone 2-0 on a 4-game winning streak. And he said, I was just informed that I've been going to FlyQuest and that they don't have a starting spot, so I don't really know what I'm going to do. Then there was a few more clarifying tweets that 100 Thieves executed the trade on Friday, but didn't tell Meteos until afterwards. And then also Meteos is going to be able to compete for the starting roster, and 100 Thieves traded him for Onda. So it's not necessarily a for sure they're doing it for Levi to start. It's Onda or Meteos.
There's a problem, though. Your language has to be more precise than that because they did not execute the trade,
They
as he said,
agreed to
on
the trade.
Friday. Yeah. So they agreed to the trade on Friday before the weekend. They did not execute the trade.
Of course, because he was
until
still on
after the
100
game
Thieves
set
when he
played.
was playing. You
Yeah.
can't
Also-
play
But
after the
that's,
trade's
but
been
that's
played.
where so much confusion came from
Okay,
because the
fair.
original tweet from Meteos, everyone immediately assumes like, oh my God, they just traded him out of the blue. But then, as the 100 Thieves information comes out, they're like, okay, Meteos came to us
Yes.
and
Yeah.
asked to be traded, and there have been weeks of discord within the team, between players and between coaching staff, where they have been trying to solve these issues, and kind of it felt like both parties have decided that they should split ways, but we still want more information, and Meteos said that he was going to release a video
A day ago, he said
yesterday,
that.
but then he was moving out, so we didn't actually get the video in time for this, which I'm a little bit disappointed
So
in.
this is interesting to me because this is like the second time this split that you've had players tweet out like information like this before their orgs are able to tweet out information or give context ahead of it. Because when Cloud9 made all of those like crazy sweeping changes, right? Like we heard about it first from Sneaky, right? Before we heard anyone else.
We heard, it was a Jack
very
video
quickly
with
after.
Reaper
Okay.
that was like 4 minutes of them talking into a
All
camera.
right, well, good on Cloud9
and then
for
like
getting it out
30
first.
seconds later,
There was
all
the
three of the
XD.
bench players tweeted
XD
out.
comes out.
Yeah, like benched XD.
Very interesting from the outside, obviously also not being involved in American sport where you can just take a player and instantly trade him over.
I mean, you can do that in the
2-0.
EULCS too.
Yeah, but I mean in European sports.
Okay.
If a player, from my understanding at least, if a player is from a football club, has to go to a different team, he has
Right.
to agree to a new contract
Okay.
with that team, and he can just decline that. He might then get put on the reserve team or something until his contract runs out. But I'm pretty sure you can't just fully buy the exact same, and then he has to move. Which is not the case, of course, in America, where you can actually just trade a player.
Well, and I think it's just contract by contract because I've been reading a little bit. There's discussion about this, and some people were surprised that they could do this without his permission or whatever. But it's like on a contract by contract basis.
Right,
So
okay.
depending on what the players have negotiated, some players would have to agree to the terms of the deal. I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, it completely depends on the league, what their contract structure is going to be. And then especially the NALCS where, right, the Players Association just got formed now. Agents are encouraged in the scene, but not necessarily used. Every contract's going to be different. So I can use the NFL as an example. You can trade players in the NFL.
Yeah.
You can cut players in the NFL. But every individual has different stipulations in their contract. So some of them have a no-trade clause, which means if the team wants to trade them, they have to go to the player, and the player has veto rights. There's also other contracts with more or less guaranteed money. So if you want to cut the player, they actually don't get the money, or if you do cut the player, they get half of their salary or 3/4 of the salary, and everything is unique. And I think NA is actually similar to that. It's just depending on what they actually agreed to. Because there could be NA players that negotiated no trade clauses, and there's going to be no rules for or against that. And if 100 Thieves wanted to cut them, we don't know what type of guarantees would have existed in Meteos' contract. Maybe if 100 Thieves cut him, they have to pay all of his contract. Or if they trade him, they no longer have to pay it, and 100, it's totally variable on the player.
It's interesting because I just wonder how many players are like familiar with that concept coming into esports because this
Probably
is
very
just
few.
I think
Now
like
they're
people just
learning.
aren't ready,
Like,
right?
oh.
Like this is the first time I think any players like looked for that no trade clause, probably all across NALCS, probably in European LCS too, just trying to
But-
figure out what is this allowed, where else can it be done.
I just think what's interesting is that he requested that they went out and tried to
look for a
find a
trade.
different team. So it was not a no trade case.
The
in this
actual
one.
wording in the 100 Thieves statement is that Meteos requested permission for himself
Oh,
to
okay.
talk to other teams.
Okay.
So when he requests information for himself to talk to other teams, I think the part that Meteos is surprised about is that 100 Thieves then also went to talk to other teams about trading his contract. And obviously 100 Thieves wants to get the best possible jungler replacement. And so they came to the conclusion of Onda and FlyQuest as this is the best, trade right now that anyone's willing to give us as far as jungler for jungler. And Meteos was more thinking, ooh, I want to talk to TSM and see what's going on with that jungler position or something like that. It's just an example.
Probably want to guarantee a starting spot, which he couldn't now that.
And be on a top team, right? And in FlyQuest, well, I mean, they had a good week, but he might not even get the starting spot. So it's in all the kind of legalities aside.
Yep.
It is kind of interesting just to see that it's happened because obviously, people expect these things when a team is doing poorly, right? Like people expect changes to be made when a team finishes way lower in the standings than they were supposed to, or when they're, on the verge of relegation or whatever. But this team is sitting in first place. They're one of the most popular brands in the league immediately. They were in the finals in their first split. Like by all outward appearances, things are going very, very well for this team. And that is why I think so many people were also surprised by the move. And, Meteos is very beloved by fans. So it's kind of crazy to see. And to me, like hearing that it was, a 1-for-1 trade for Onda is interesting because like I see that as a straight just downgrade from Meteos. And if you're trying to move things around to get Levi in, then that maybe,
you need a top laner.
Or a mid laner, right? Like Sunday
lane.
is maybe the best player in the league right now. This split, he's been crushing it. So I can't see them replacing him.
But the thing is, they have been pretty clear about the problems that they've had with Meteos working with the players and the coaching staff. So it's not on paper, one-to-one skill like comparison. If you have a player where the player wants off the team, and as they said, at least Nadeshot also tweeted out about, we've been working on trying to solve the issues between the coaching staff and the players for a long time. If you're not able to solve those issues, then it really kind of changes the perspective that you're looking at these trades from.
And it's for long-term success, right? It's not necessarily right now.
From 100 Thieves perspective, it's like they're doing what's absolutely in their best interest. If there's a guy who's not like listening to your coaching staff, not respecting or not interacting with the team, and once again, I don't know the specifics, but obviously like Meteos asking to leave is already like a clear red flag to any org that like we need to make sure we have a backup and we're in control of the situation, because if he just leaves, like you're in trouble, right? You don't want to immediately bring up Levi, especially with...
Well, then they'd have to change their mid laner too. So they if they're going to replace him, they need to have a jungler who is non-import.
Unlike another team, right, where maybe you have an academy jungler where it doesn't force multiple changes, right? Like they're especially vulnerable to this. And then I just have to wonder how bad the team environment is that when you're winning, this changes. Because even if they were losing, right, like 3 weeks into the split to start making radical changes to your team, like stuff has to be pretty bad.
Yeah. Also, they're tied for first.
C9.
Which is
also they're tied for first.
I would say one more thing, just like on the business focus part of this trade, is that even if it is legal, like there's nothing in the contract that bars you from trading him off to a team that he doesn't want to go to, that from the players' reaction, the other pro players, is kind of going to lower your standing among the talent in the league. If 100 Thieves want to make future contracts and future deals and stuff like that, people are going to consider that. Whereas we have also had teams that have been super outspoken about like, oh, we want to find the best possible place and work with the player or whatever to get them somewhere, even if it costed the organization something extra. And that's just something that will affect negotiations moving forward.
That's true.
Unless the players, though, just get a contract that stipulates they can't be traded without permission, right?
Well, they're definitely going to whenever they deal, with an organization like that now.
But I feel like every org, like when push comes to shove, is going to put themselves first, right? Like I feel like
you have to think about the entire team.
Yeah.
Like in this case here, I fully understand what you mean with like, I'm scared of 100 Thieves now because they might just like get rid of me if something happens. But again, because we don't know the behind the scenes, like if a player is requesting to leave the team and you have him on a full-time contract, and okay, this guy will not work on our main team right now. We only have an import jungler on our academy team, so we need to get someone else from North America we can actually start. Like, they were probably forced. I don't think it was their first priority to get him to FlyQuest where he didn't get a guaranteed spot and just like get rid of him. But they were probably felt as a team pretty forced that they had to find a North American jungler and they had to get rid of this player who was sitting and taking up salary, who had requested to look for something else in the middle of the split. So I actually feel bad also for 100 Thieves in this situation and some of the flame they're getting. Because as a team, I feel like you get put in a really tough spot when a player like this, when you already have 2 imports, requests to leave week 3 into the split. Like you have to just get the best replacement for yourself and only think about what's best for our team so we can go to Worlds in this case here. for 100 Thieves.
And I think the PR comes in a big way. The fact that the very first we heard about this was from Meteos immediately sets the perspective from him. And then you wait for the 100 Thieves statement. I've been following all of the NBA free agency stuff, and the number of leaks that come through there are way higher. Like, something's happening right now with the San Antonio Spurs player who's still under contract called Kawhi Leonard, and he says, I want to get traded to the Lakers. But there's leaks saying that he has or hasn't fixed things with his coach, and that he really wants to come to the Lakers, and that you hear everything already. Whereas here, there were actually no leaks until after it happened. Because what if Meteos requested this in week 1? You could hear about it right then, and then it's kind of less surprise. So a lot of those leaks are strategic in the NBA to try and color the org in a better position or color the player in a better position. And I wonder if that's where we're going in the NALCS. Someone somewhere will tweet, I heard Meteos is unhappy, or I heard 100 Thieves doesn't like the way the team is going. Because I think we're going there.
And I think stuff like this just encourages the teams to wait on telling the players, right? Like you're saying, it colors the perspective from Meteos, so everyone immediately is going to sympathize with him. If 100 Thieves first came out and released a statement before they even tell Meteos anything, then they tell Meteos. Sucks for Meteos, but then everyone reads it and is like, oh, this sounds pretty reasonable. Oh, Meteos, the coaches couldn't get along with Meteos, so Meteos asked to be traded. Okay, well, that's too bad, but that makes sense, right? And it's like, it does kind of start that arms race almost.
Anyway, we have Rift Rivals coming up. Unless you guys have, you got more?
Well, I don't know. There's just, I feel like there's so much here, and this has been the discussion that everyone's just been talking about for the past couple of days.
I think the trap is that this turns into a very big discussion about like ecosystem, and we will spend all of our time talking about ecosystem.
We could move on from like the business discussion and talk about what we think it means for the team as far as performance.
Sure, go for it.
Which is also like an interesting topic. And they were like,
how will we do it? Performance at Rift Rivals with the people that we know that they're going to play.
Brandini and Levi.
They were Kelby and Mark were talking a lot about this on Hotline League last night, but it's kind of what you touched on, Azil, where you're like, okay, so if you take all the stuff out of fan reactions and what is this going to do for the business and what does this mean for everything else, 100 Thieves now at Rift Rivals, like they already declared they're going to use Levi and Brandini. And we are going to take, these changes into account when we're ranking them for our, Rift Rivals top 6, I guess.
They're going to be in the top 6.
They're definitely going to be in the top 6.
Top 5.
Made the cut. Do you have to sell us out every time you get the chance? You're like, I want you guys to know. Let's lower expectations.
Want to get
off
some
the
jabs
board.
in there just for fun. See, we're laughing.
Rift Rivals will be played on patch 8.13. Which is the first competitive patch we will be playing on this. Aatrox will be enabled, Deficio, the new Aatrox.
The new Aatrox.
And I know you read a lot of Reddit.
I do.
You're someone who loves
The
social
last
media.
2 weeks, man, I've been
Do you
reading too
identify
much.
as a
All of
Redditor?
your casting is trying to just either hit the Reddit audience
There you go,
or
baby.
capture them in some way.
Don't tell them all my
He's got
secrets.
a perfect read. It's
Yeah.
all
Don't
about
tell
touching
them
a quick
all
shot
the secrets.
inappropriately.
However, it
They
felt
love
like there were some mixed opinions.
Yeah, there
on
was.
Aatrox. What are your thoughts
So
on that?
yeah, when Aatrox obviously got reworked and he was available within 24 hours, there was a very large discussion going on about how he was one of the worst reworks of all time, garbage champion, everything was wrong about him, and it got into a point where I feel like I've read so much Reddit over the last couple of months, and the overreactions have just hit like a new peak, where like if you within 24 hours as an entire community, or at least based on upvote downvote system, can start upvoting all this stuff about how garbage this rework is within it just being released like a day ago. I'm just like, what's going on? Like, how is this even a thing? Riot, on purpose, to not release champions like Rammus that you play once and you're like, oh, okay, I have to click taunt on this guy and W on myself and then I can do stuff.
I actually really like Rammus.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
finding-
but he's a
finding
symbol
new
that
So
slant.
you can't powerball and do the
He's
defensive ball
a-
curl at the same time, so he's kind of complicated.
He's a
You can
symbol
flash
champion.
over people while you're powerballing
he
for the
gets- see,
instant
There is a
knockup.
little bit. So, okay, 3
Jat's feeling
games.
attacked.
3 games of Rammus, and then you're an
Press your
expert.
R and stay close to them.
Yeah, I know. The reworks, pretty complicated. There's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of jumping around, Riven style, blah, blah, blah. I just don't understand how people can overreact so quickly. We haven't even seen this guy being used by good players yet. And for all we know at Rift Rivals, we might get an Aatrox showing up, wrecking faces left and right, and the next thread on Reddit is, wow, Aatrox is overpowered. Holy moly, what's going on? Like, calm down, everyone. Learn to play the champions, then complain.
I feel like so many people literally just did their first game of Aatrox and they're like, well, champion sucks. Time to go to Reddit. And
They
like,
build Rageblade and Titanic Hydra and like the auto attacking doesn't work no more.
so I played about 5 games against Aatrox online, and like 4 of them just like the person clearly had no idea what they're doing. I was like, wow, this champion looks like it might really suck. And then I played against a guy who's on the playtest team and is like high rated and has obviously put in quite a few games on new Aatrox, and it was looking strong to me. And like this was like, it just was a completely different champion when the person actually understood how to manipulate the Qs and like use the E to keep hitting the sweet spot from angles that you're not necessarily expecting, right? Like start really far away, they start their Q, they dash in, they hit you with a knock up. Once you get hit by 1, you can really start chaining it. And like the level 1 damage that this champion can do, like I lost about 90% of my health at level 1 to like a Q chain. And like it's pretty surprising. The 3rd Q damage is pretty insane if you actually can like flash, reposition it to land it, or E and reposition.
Well, I think most of the complaints have been about later in the game for team fights and stuff, because almost everybody I've seen is actually like, yeah, he's a lane bully. He's extremely strong in lane, but a lot of the kit is kind of, geared towards that. Especially with multiple movement spells, right? And any champion with multiple interacting movement spells, like that's a high skill cap champion. Of course, in a small amount of time, like people aren't going to be able to master that, and you really do have to play the later stages of the game so much differently if you do rely on things like sweet spots and mobility and stuff like that, and these like mini knockups that he has. So I definitely could see.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I understand. I'm just disappointed.
I think the day 1 sentiment is like, because I played one Aatrox game and I was like, okay, I can see why.
So
Reddit
you're
would say
a
it.
master now.
No, yeah, well, I obviously didn't go and like, you know what, this is awful. I hate this. But like, you're right. Like the movement is complex, and he feels, when you're not used to him, incredibly clunky. So if you played only one game and you're like, this is enough information for me to make an educated decision, of course your conclusion is going to be, this is terrible, because there's just no way you can master that champion in a single game. So I get it, but also, yes, definitely an overreaction when you've
Gotta remember,
put 40 minutes into a champion, or read that someone else has put 40 minutes into a champion.
You join in. 80 carries is also dead. We know that. We've read that multiple times. They do not exist in the game except for the 6-7 viable ones. But, it is what it is.
It's been 3 weeks. Let it go.
I know, man. But it still hurts me. It still hurts me.
There's a lot of different directions we could talk about the meta, but I'm going to keep taking us back to Rift Rivals.
Oh, yeah, that tournament.
I have some fun facts. I want to see if the Europeans can guess this before we transition in. There is a team going to Rift Rivals that is last place in their league at gold average at 15 minutes. Who is that team?
Splice.
So I feel like you're doing a sneaky
Splice
one.
have lost a lot. But it might be a good team that then wins late game.
There are 6 teams. One of them is last place in their region.
At gold difference
Gold
at 15.
difference at 15.
At 15.
I know when I was watching the Splice game, they had like a negative goal difference of 15.
This is
But
supposed to be.
It's for everyone. I mean,
Oh, you
it's
said
definitely-
the European.
It is
I mean,
for
for sure.
everyone.
I
So-
like them answering it first
So
because I know
Splice
you guys will get it
No,
right.
no. So Splice lost 4 games, and the game that they won against Rocket, they're in a deficit because Rocket took like every single
Yes.
turret. So Splice would be the safe bet.
That would
for
be the
sure.
safe one.
But now I have to accept that there might be holes in my NALCS knowledge, and I'm like really trying to collect my thoughts and like, do your teams just int in the early game?
I mean, Team
some of them, yes.
A lot of teams int in the early game.
Team Liquid.
No way, dude. No way. Team Liquid's too good at standard. They wouldn't.
There's only 6 teams to pick from.
It has to be Splice.
It's not Fnatic or G2.
Okay.
It feels too.
That makes 4 teams to pick from.
This is the thing. It feels too obvious, and now I'm convinced it's a trap.
Yeah.
What do you guys say?
Copy our answers, bro.
I'll say
If
yeah.
I had to guess from NA, I would say like maybe Equifox, just because the like
They had the funnel one that went-
they had that one went super bad. They also lost a game like 20-3 in kills or something.
Yeah.
Like there's only been 6 games, so like one
Wait.
horrible game like that
Can change everything. You're right.
yeah. So
Splice of
it
them.
might be Equifox.
So apparently Misfits is plus 5,000 gold at 15 on average,
Misfits
which is
are
just
insane.
insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
But they're not
After
even
week
going to
1, they were
Rift
plus
Rivals.
8,000 at 15. I remember.
Yeah, they're our
They're
favorite
very
Rift Rivals
good, by the way.
representative.
Yeah, they're winning. For not
They have
making,
already
for
won
not
Rift
making
Rivals
playoffs.
and they're not even here.
Yeah.
Like-
Interesting.
So who is it? Jim?
It's Equifox.
Ah.
Yeah, last
It
place
was
in
a
league with
trap.
gold.
Splice
So
is
is
probably not too.
Follow-up question.
Yeah,
Jen.
Splice is actually their actual gold at 15
Yeah.
is only slightly better than Equifox, but there's like 4 more teams below
Right,
them
right,
in the
right.
EU, whereas Equifox
We got a
is
bunch of
still-
punching bags down there.
yeah.
Give us the free ones. H2K.
Oh, baby.
I watched that H2K
So-
slice game yesterday.
That is the pinnacle of League, and you will say nothing else, Zale. Is there one horrible
that
Echo
Shook
Fox
versus
game that brings it
Xerxes
down?
matchup?
I'd assume that there's like one.
Cloud9
Oh,
was atrocious. So
Also,
they won that game,
But
by
they were
the
like
way.
down like.
And there's
8K.
also
The
another
goal
game.
funnel against Team Liquid.
Last week was
They
awful.
lost in 20
Yeah,
minutes.
Both of their games, they fell
That
behind
one was
like
like
a billion
real
goal.
bad.
It
I
was
didn't know how
pretty
many
much all
of them
from
they
last
had,
week.
but that was bad.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah. That was an actual lose game because they just lost lanes on both sides of the map and they didn't do anything for their
Funnel
entire
com
rest of
can
it.
definitely backfire.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't even a real funnel com. That like carries in all the lanes.
Rank your EULCS teams 1, 2, 3 coming to Rift Rivals. Then we'll do NA.
G2 Fnatic Splice.
Yeah. G2. Yeah.
G2 did just beat
You gotta
Fnatic.
put G2 above.
G2 Fnatic Splice is definitely the same.
But you have
Fisher
to-
just dictate to you
You-
all the time and he's
You have to
telling
take
you
into
your answers.
consideration Fnatic's flexibility. I mean, they can sub in Reckless to play Janna anytime they need. Anytime you need Janna to come off the
Don't
bench.
be
Boom,
disrespectful.
he's in
Luden's
there.
Echo, John as well, baby.
He can also play Karma.
That
Don't
was-
shut my man
that
down.
was the worst funnel game I think I've seen.
They won one of them.
I
They
don't
won
know.
the
They didn't
Karma
win the
one, I
Janna
think it
one.
was.
They won the
Hold
Karma
on.
one.
I have a question though.
Also because Schalke hard through the game.
Oh,
by
the
the way.
Baron in 20 minutes.
They hard through.
Move
Let's be clear.
on.
They did not win that game.
Fnatic Baron
Schalke
against
lost that
G2.
game.
That was all. The idea was okay, but the execution was bad.
Just stayed on the Baron and all died.
Anyway, Kobe, you were saying something.
Plenty of teams have shown success with regular marksmen. Very
Yep.
good marksman players playing these marksman champions.
G2's
Yeah. I
shown
know
success
exactly
Guys
with
like
what
Climber
you're
Data,
gonna ask
baby.
about.
Guys like Uzi, Double Lift.
Just get the question out.
Have you talked to Fnatic at all about why they have refused to?
I mean,
run that type of style?
they've come out. Like they said that first week they kind of agreed that it felt wrong. That they generally think that the double bruiser bot that they're playing a lot with all the flex picks is the best way that they can play right now as a team. That said, we know that Reckless is still playing solo queue, and from my understanding, they're still splitting scrim time with him, where he does play traditional AD carries.
Because last Rift Rivals, he was also playing Kennen and split pushing.
And it was the
They were
best thing in the
number
world,
one.
and don't
They
you
were
sound anything
number one
over.
with that. Then the Camp Mid thing happened, and everything backfired. But
Kennen also, I think, got nerfed right before Rift Rivals, if I remember.
he also got
That
nerfed
was- that
before
happened,
that.
Be real,
That was
that was
the
not
only
the
reason
issue.
they
The
lost.
issue was our
No, it
junglers
wasn't, but
didn't
still,
want to
yeah.
go mid.
Another thing from what I've been reading as well is that Reckless said to the team that if they feel that, or if he feels that AD carries are not the strongest at the moment, he'd rather sit out then and let Whippo, who is better at playing bruises than he is, play.
You just said Whippo.
Yes.
We need to talk about this.
Ah, this stupid story.
That's a good story.
Player pronunciation is important.
Pronunciation.
Whippo
Whippo.
is his name. However, when we were doing MSI, Deficio came to the whole casting team and said, I talked to him.
I did.
And he said, you don't need to say the B.
Silent B.
As long as you say the Whippo.
Yes.
Which is just made up.
Whippo.
Like,
No.
that didn't have... His name was Whippo.
confirmed it.
No,
because-
Vedius
No,
talked to
yeah,
Whippo,
yeah, yeah.
and he goes, no,
So it's with a B. It's Whippo
Yeah,
with a B.
yeah.
You have to say Whippo.
You
At
can
the
pronounce
next
it
line.
any way as long as you say the B, which is
Okay.
actually the exact opposite of what he said.
Next line, Vedis will confirm and told you. He said only Deficio can say Whippo.
Okay. Also,
We had him on the
just made up.
podcast
That's just
and
made
said
up.
Whippo every time.
Also, yeah, to be fair, he told us that on the podcast too. But I have a
Whippo.
sneaking suspicion that he might just not care.
That's
And as
probably
long as
what it is.
he's probably okay with Blippo or Whippo, and it's just not.
That's why it
really
was just
concerned.
hilarious though that he's like, no, you must. The
It is
B
true.
is silent. You must
That was
pronounce
pretty
it
dumb.
this
I
way."
will
To be
admit
fair, I
that.
guarantee this is how the conversation goes. Like, he's like, yeah, Whippo's good. And Martin comes in the room. He's like, got it. Guys, it will be one way and one way only. It has been decreed.
For the integrity of League of Legends.
That's basically what happened.
This happens to us too. So Fang, Echo Fox's support, who's not Adrian. He's
Fang?
Thing.
We had been told because player management asked him, like, what would you prefer to be called? And he's like, well, it's meant to be said Fung.
Fung.
Fung. So we all call him, the whole week, we're like Fung. They interview Altec on stage. And he's like, yeah, so Fang's been doing pretty great. And we're like, hold on. His teammates call him Fang. It's spelt Fang. Why are we calling him Fung? So we're going to call him Fang.
Player names, man, they're tough. We got Xerxes now. That's a really
Xerxes?
tough one.
How about UZI?
What's
I'm not
important?
gonna tell you how
Is
to
it
say
the
it.
Xerxes or the Xerxes?
I know
What's
I'm
important?
pronouncing it wrong, but he gave up on trying to teach me the name, so he just accepts to
gave
say
up.
Xerxes.
He gave up. That's my conclusion. We tried real hard to get it right, and it's like was it Circe? Circe?
Something like that.
Circe?
It's not
It's
Xerxes.
supposed to be
It's
like
not
pretty quick.
Xerxes. It's not Circe like Circe Lannister. It's not Xerxes like 300 bad
No,
guy.
it's not that.
It's
I
somewhere
really
in
wanted
the
it to
middle.
be
At
Xerxes.
a certain point,
He
you're
always
teaching,
pays his debts.
You're teaching, at a certain point, you're teaching a baby calculus. You just have to give up. You're just like, all right, they're incapable. It's not their fault.
Call him whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm calling him
Whippo?
Xerxes. And Whippo is in the house, baby.
All right, you guys ranked your EU teams. Let's rank the NA teams. TL number 1.
TL Echo
I
Fox
think
under
it-
the.
Wait,
Yeah.
they're not number one in the standings. They're tied.
We're
number
doing
one.
well.
We're doing
sure.
our power
Power
Yeah, so give me the
rankings.
reason. You guys,
Well,
you guys
okay,
get
so-
away with that.
Well, because Echo Fox is last place in gold at 15 and TL's not. That's part of it.
for
From
me,
one game, you said it was like one game where they went.
It's all 6 averaged.
For me, I would say a big reason is like I look at so TL has had 2 pretty bad games. One, I think it was the Vladimir game where they they died level 1 bot, and I think that they're just not going to play that style. Like they're actually really really strong with the standard style. Their other loss was pretty rough. That was who was their second loss against?
Echo Fox's losses?
No, TL.
Oh, TL, they
Wasn't
got
it
blasted
Golden
by
Guardians?
Golden
Yeah, they
Guardians,
got blasted.
and then they got blasted
Golden
by Clutch.
Guardians.
Classic.
But that was
They
the
lost to
Vladimir
Clutch.
one. It was the
Yes.
clutch. The clutch
yeah.
one was the one that made me like kind of doubt
They
them a
got
bit
beat
more.
pretty
'cause
much
it
across the
was-
map.
that was this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, that was just like a standard game, but like in their marksman games, I have like a lot of confidence in their play. You know, as a more standard team, I don't think that they're a team that is very good with like kind of like the new meta stuff. I mean, at least they didn't look very comfortable with Vladimir against Golden Guardians. They got slammed there, but their 3 games after, they looked super strong. Clutch they lost. But.
Yeah, there's no other team, especially since we're only choosing between Echo Fox and 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
Echo Fox have been wildly inconsistent, getting blasted, as you said, in like 23 minutes, was that? And also some of their wins, even though they are tied with Team Liquid, some of their wins have been on things that aren't really repeatable to me. Like, okay, Altec can take Mundo top lane, and Huni can play Yasuo bottom lane. But like, how many top laners does Dardoch play for his like Rengar top game? It's probably only Rengar top. Like, I don't think they're able to like
Camille?
choose
Zac top lane,
choose
baby?
Talia jungle whenever they want, have Huni be in the jungle whenever. I think it has to be like a very specific thing, and some of these specific things like have already been shown on stage here for Echo Fox. So. That in addition to the fact that they play the funnel like the way that they do, super aggressive and like continue trying to force
all
like that,
resources
and
in on all
it
tech
looked
is
pretty rough.
bold strategy. But so if they're inconsistent and some of the ones that they do have, they're using like one-off strategies. I think it's safe to say, depending on the depth of some of those extra pools. Did you say they're above 100 Thieves? You still put them in second.
I mean, there's 2
Well, how
steps.
did these
100
playing
Thieves are using
Brandini
Levi
and
and Brandini.
Levi's insane.
You don't believe in
Levi has never
Brandini?
looked good in the academy since he's been here. He's a god in solo queue, rank 1 on 2 different accounts, but his academy games have not been great.
Yeah. I mean,
Communication?
they just haven't. Well, his English has gotten a lot better. Maybe still communication, but like they haven't practiced with them. So like, how can I really think that this team is going to do super well? And also someday, I think like legitimately has probably been the best player in Spring Split, or one of the best players at least in the league in Spring Split.
Last week was the week where he really performed. I'd say
Yeah.
the previous 2 weeks he was meh.
I
but-
thought he was still pretty good, but anyway, like
I think probably
So-
their best player.
I think he's probably their best player, and he's being subbed out. Like that alone is
Oh, yeah.
is a big
If
hit.
In addition to all this drama, like even though Meteos, is out of the house now or whatever, and he's not going to be affecting him for Rift Rivals, like all of that stuff going on right before Rift Rivals is not going to be like
This is-
the greatest training experience.
If you guys lose, we can add Meteos tilted 100 Thieves to the excuse list. But I have a
We
question.
already have excuses. We have 2 subs.
Jet
That's
lag,
all the
baby.
excuses
Jet
we
lag.
need.
We're holding on. So if you were to make it, so it's obviously 1, 2, 3. But if you had to do like a section tier list, would you call Team Liquid like by far your best, and everyone
No.
else is pretty far below that? Or are these guys actually close to each other?
Personally, watching an ALCS this split, there's not a good
I think
way.
TL and Echo Fox would probably combine.
Yeah, I would still say TL is probably the best team in NA,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
based on them being the defending champs, but by no means are they consistent.
Those are the
Well,
most
yeah,
standard
my
team.
thing is just like,
Yeah.
They're the most
is there like an
Well, TSM as
actual
well.
gap? Is there like a noticeable gap between TL and Echo Fox just from Rift Rivals representation? Like,
don't think so.
are they far and away number one, or is it just kind of close?
I think they're pretty comparable but they just have such different styles, right? Like you look at TL and when they win, it makes sense. This is kind of how you think you should play League of Legends, or like at least what this is kind of more standard stuff is. When you look at Echo Fox, like a lot of Echo Fox's strengths are just that, like talking to some of the players, like it's actually impossible to draft against Echo Fox. You have no clue what they're doing because I was doing the lounge last week with Stixay and Biofrost, and they were just talking about they hate Echo Fox. They hate screaming against Echo Fox. They hate playing against Echo Fox.
The unicorns of love.
The unicorns of love.
I mean, it's even more random, right? Like they did an Aurelia funnel. Like Huni could play Aurelia top. They literally could do an Aurelia funnel. They could put it mid. They do some stuff bot. They actually put everything everywhere. So you have no idea what's happening in draft, and that makes it really hard for them to kind of pick their lanes and have an understanding. I think that like that, along with the fact that Huni can go anywhere and is actually like one of the best players in the world, I think just makes them so like such highs and lows and very unpredictable.
That's so funny because whenever we've had teams doing that, we said Unicorns of Love, obviously not the current one. We got to go back a few years, with Visichachi and Hilly on the team. Like teams also said, I hate scrimming against them. It's just troll picks every game. No one knows what's happening. Typically with those kind of teams, they don't actually improve a lot because you don't get to practice the fundamentals over and over and over, and you just keep relying on, oh, maybe this strategy works now. Okay, let's try this one. Oh, it didn't work. What do we do in the BO5 now? How do we adapt? What do we change? So I really want to see with this team if they can actually, doing the split, keep doing it, but also get a lot better as a team actually playing the game consistently. Because as you guys already highlighted, right now there's not a lot of consistency.
I mean, the good news about League of Legends compared to like any other sport where this probably wouldn't be an option is that because the game actually changes, in theory, you could indefinitely sustain new innovation as your only form of progression, right?
Especially
but otherwise,
if the meta stays the same as it is now.
Otherwise, I agree completely that investing so much time into just finding these unique picks and these individual kind of opportunities for single games feels like it's a risk, right? It's a huge investment of time versus learning to play standard, which will probably always be relevant forever.
I'll play the other side of it though, and if it depends on what your understanding like of these new strategies are, and the important part is always understanding why it works, not like, oh, I guess Heimerdinger, bottom end, whatever on top side is a super good strategy, and some teams will be just like, okay, then we just pick that and it wins or whatever. But if they're understanding the underlying, like, okay, we're hard shoving here, we're gonna be able to rotate on these timings or whatever, then I think those are things that you can carry over, even if the pieces do change, and that even gives you a better like holistic understanding of the game itself, even if different pieces are changing.
But I don't think they actually fully understand. There was like I saw them do the funnel comp, right?
Huni says that he does.
Sure, but I see them do the funnel comp, and one of the things about that is you don't have a jungler, so your solo laners, your side lanes.
You have a jungler. He's just busy.
He's busy. Yes, fair. He's sitting and farming mid
lane.
The
same way that a solo queue Master Yi or something has been busy over the last 5 years.
When you do that and you think about, okay, what's our strategy in the early game? The strategy should not be to perma-push your top lane because you don't have any help. So when the enemy jungler can just walk top lane to Huni, who's like sitting at the enemy turret, and do like bonk, well, that's a first blood, then your entire strategy will obviously start falling apart. And like that's the kind of stuff where I feel like they are so widely inconsistent in what they're doing that I can't go into a game saying, oh yeah, they will 100% know what to do with this strategy. More like, let's see what happens.
That brings me right to G2 then. Because now's the time to start seeing how EU and NA match up. G2, they're the funnel gods.
There we go.
What you guys have to tell me then is, are they funnel gods because no one understands that you can just gank top and bottom lane? Or are they actually doing things to make funnel the optimal strategy? Because we need to now decide, is Team Liquid or G2 the best team at Rift Rivals? But answer the funnel question.
So here's the thing about G2 running funnel versus
they're 6-0.
A lot of other teams running funnel is, one, I do think that they're taking advantage of just being better mechanical players. So I will say that as like a thing to count against them, because they are just, sometimes they're just smashing teams that are just objectively worse than them and winning lanes that, getting 1v1 advantages that you Like once you get it, it's so easy to play the game. But the thing that they do is when they get mid lane pressure, they are willing to sacrifice a camp and not go full on farm to go top lane, or well, it's pretty much exclusively been top lane. But in theory, you could go bot lane as well, and to help Wonder out. And like that's something that I don't see as much, and particularly nice with Kai'Sa, especially in a funnel where you have some form of CC to stack plasma, and she can instantly be in that top lane using the, I guess I wouldn't even call it a semi-global, but the long range ability to travel. So I think that aspect of the way that they use funnel is really good and makes it more than just farm simulator for the game. But I do also think that there's a certain degree of truth in that junglers have not been exploiting the weaknesses of funnel nearly enough in Europe.
It's definitely both. Like they do play it well, but a lot of teams also just like fall flat on their face when they play against it, and then they don't communicate that Perks is coming to their lane or whatever, and he gets a double kill, and you're just like, well, I guess this is it then. But generally, the point you made about like when Fnatic tried to play funnel in week 1, they did it super passively, where they would never leave the lane from mid, and then they had two lanes on the sides that just got like smacked in the face 24/7, and they just lost like kills and turrets, and they could only win if there was a chance of like getting a Baron at 20 minutes to get back in the game, like against Schalke. Where G2 is the more aggressive one. I think Wonder has become such a flexible player that he used to be the guy who could only push forward, and then if that didn't work, he would just be useless. Definitely not the case at all. Like a couple of years later now, he's much smarter. So he's not a guy you just like find pushing to the enemy territory like Huni did in a funnel comp. And the bottom lane, they just play push comps that actually are really annoying to gank, like when they did Fiddleheimer. It's like you gank Fiddleheimer, you get feared instantly, and there's 3 turrets like do shooting at you, and then they can try and flash away or walk away. So they understand how to play it. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's the greatest strategy of all time. I think some teams will try and punish it during Rift Rivals, like it can be like last year. But G2, overall, the biggest thing for them is they've moved responsibility away from a bottom lane that had issues last year when there was a lot of teamfight carries, and Yharnam was a weaker teamfighter carry than
Last
like
split,
Reckless.
then.
Last split. And they moved all the attention on Perks, the best player on the team. That is the biggest advantage of them doing funnel strat, more than just the strategy itself.
Yeah, like watching some of their games, like I'm totally in agreement that that's the thing that sets their funnel apart is how they actually aren't just playing farm simulator. Like one of the games I was watching, Perks hits over 300 CS at 20 minutes while also making 2 successful roams top where he kills them, and they take a Rift Herald. And it's like, that is the sort of thing that is allowing them to actually apply pressure. I also really like how, I know Yanko's Braum is a meme, but like, but it's just like how he is not just attached to the hip to his funnel the whole time. Like he's actually counter ganking top some with Wonder as well by himself, even without the Kai'Sa and things like that. Did really make a lot of sense. But I wonder how they look, because there's only so many picks. I think like Kai'Sa is so good as a funnel to be proactive because of the plasma, because you can engage like compared to a Lucian or even a Zai, I feel like. So it's like if you take away the Kai'Sa, if you take away someone like a Heimer, who to me is like the most obvious, always shove them in and be hard to gank type champion, you just drop your ult turret or whatever when people try to gank you, these sorts of things, like can they still make this happen in a lot of different ways? And
they did Zyra Khan and they did Lucian Braum as well.
I know they have run different ones, but I just don't think that you can have the same level of effectiveness in like roaming and affecting side lanes with non-Kai'Sa. And
I think the specific champions is one advantage though that Europe is bringing over here. Like especially things like the Heimerdinger, I think is a great example. We've had I've been talking to some of the bottom lane players that are trying to catch up with the Heimerdinger experience, and we have like some Heimerdinger mains in North America, like Solo Q or whatever, that definitely even tried to get some coaching from Heisendong.
Hey, you've tried that before too.
Never got to set up.
It's actually a very strong champion right now, but it also has a lot of nuance that kind of bars bottom lane players from picking it up so quickly. Whereas even things like Morgana is probably the easiest. For like one of the bottom lane mages, and then things like Swain and stuff are really strong as well, but they don't have that extra kind of hump that you have to get over to be able to perform like Yarnan does. Who's
he's by the way a Heimer one trick as well.
Exactly, like, that's where his name even came from and all that. But
so we talked about funnel, G2 or Team Liquid. Who wins when they play each other? Is it Team? Because Team Liquid has played against funnel. They played against Echo, Foxes.
That was not a real funnel.
Here's my question, actually, because I think this is what decides it for me. How do you feel this season about Ole's performance and Team Liquid's bottom lane?
It's about as consistent as not consistent.
Well, I think Ole's
Like,
been much better this split.
He was better last week. I don't know. He's definitely been better than he was during the beginning of MSI, but I don't think he's actually been that great personally. Like
So-
the Vladimir game, or even like week 1 or 2.
So for
Week
me,
3 was okay.
if G2 get a good funnel where they get like Braum Kaisa, I think they'll win. But I don't think anyone's going to give them Braum like ever. It's just not going to happen in draft. And if we end up playing standard, I think so much is going to come down to mid jungle, where I think Pobalt or Smithy would be fine. But I think that what breaks it is when support becomes a part of that picture. And I think we're playing Pyke, and you guys aren't playing Pyke, and Pyke is an insane
No
roaming
one has
champion.
played Pyke in NA.
Yeah. So I think really, if Ole is not playing well, and if your bot lane, if like Hjarnan gets anything where he can just sit in lane and sit under tower and farm and free up with need to roam, I think your bot lane's just going to collapse when we get 3 people there every minute.
It's a huge advantage for G2 if we look at even the standard setup, the fact that you can play mages bot lane. You don't need to put Jarnan versus Doublelift on 2 traditional carries and say, okay, who's the best? Well, that's Doublelift. Okay, advantage Team Liquid. Because you can nullify the bot lane. You can literally just pick pushing bot lane with 2 mages. And you're like, there you go. Like, no one gets to fight here. We just push and we walk away. So G2, even though we haven't seen them actually really show us a lot with the standard comps, they should still be good at it. They will have an advantage mid lane. I think MSI confirmed that once again, that some of the best European mid laners will be better than Pobelder. Because they've only really shown us one strategy, though, I think it's really hard to fully rate them going in. But as the EUphoria guy, I am saying G2 Esports, number 1. Team
cop-out.
Liquid, number 2.
Just like because I'm European.
No,
Oh,
I'm
no.
actually,
too.
For all the reasons
Yeah.
I just gave
Yeah,
you.
okay,
No,
there we
not
go.
because we're I think that they are the better team right now.
Right
Absolutely
now, I'm going to
better
favor G2 as well.
Oh, biased.
Yeah,
Wait a minute,
so
I just said
biased.
G2.
What? Huh? It's because Ven and Mithy. Clear. No. I agree with you about the funnel points you brought up. I also just feel like the inconsistency in general in NA and how slow it felt like they were to adapt everything. We mentioned it before. Like even TSM, who's not here, like Grig and Bjergsen were looking up how to do funnels and looking at G2 VODs on stream a week ago. They're like, how does this work? That just means that so many of the teams weren't trying funnel. They weren't really diving in to Mage's bot. And even though Doublelift very early on in the process said, I love the fact that it's changing. Bottom lane has just been nothing but carries for 6 years. Let's do it. Played a Vladimir game, got smashed, and hasn't looked back since. So,
Which is, by the way, the best thing. Like,
which could work. Like he could outplay them with a carry, and it's amazing. And it's a cool story. But
I love it.
I give G2 the edge.
I absolutely love that fact because I think you made a point earlier about how all 3 NA teams look different going into Rift Rivals. Like, they have different styles. It's exactly the same in Europe. Fnatic are like super bruiser heavy all the time because they've played with Whippo, not Bwipo. I'll keep saying it, baby. I'll keep saying it. We have Spice, who's, I don't even know what they're playing. Like, whatever.
What's their style?
Okay, should we just jump to number 6 in the tier list right now? Do you
Point
wanna
is, this fits better with Misfits because they play traditional AD carries, but now Spice is here. Anyway, there are different styles from the European teams, with G2's funnel, obviously, Fnatic with the Bruisers. And the fact that the meta is allowing these different teams to actually shine with so many different picks and different styles is really cool. Because it also makes it really hard to predict when they go against each other every time. Is there a new pick coming out? Or, oh, is that Bruiser combo actually going to be super insane against the Heimerdinger and just like beats the Heimerdinger instantly? Bam. Not that Heimerdinger gets played every game, but if it did.
For me, like I think on paper G2's looking better because they have looked more consistent. But the one thing that like could kind of throw a wrench in the gears is just like, I mean, coming to Rift Rivals last year, we looked at Fnatic, we're like, okay, this looks so great. No one knows how to beat it, right? And one of the things that
Turns out
like,
everyone just sucked.
one of the things that is giving me some confidence more in TL and making me think, hey, maybe TL like actually is better than G2 is just talking to some of the coaches and the pros who feel that they have figured out the way to actually dismantle funnel. And yes, like the Echo Fox funnel game isn't a good example because Echo Fox played it very poorly. But like I firmly believe that the way to beat funnel is like go full solo queue and you just hard camp a lane and like you hard camp a side lane, you ignore the funnel completely and you kind of blow open the map. And I think that if teams are doing that in combination with drafting like some of the more atypical heavy pushing mids like Lissandra or Rumble or Asol or whatever, I think it does get very hard for funnel comps. And I haven't seen very many like pro junglers yet. I think like camp top and stuff as hard as you can, because you don't have to worry about a counter gank ever. Like you can really do the where you walk into the bush, you lane gank, they flash away, they like you zone them off the turret, they TP back, you're still there. Like, you know, you can do that sort of stuff with some of these early aggressive jungling champions, and I think it becomes incredibly hard, even if you're not being Huni and pushed up at the turret. Like, you can just get pushed off your own turret, and as long as mid is having some sort of pushing champion that makes it harder for, you know, like Perks and Yankos and whoever to roam up and stop that, I think you can pull apart those compositions, and CLG did it pretty well.
And like I've also said, I agree with a lot of the tenets that you said, but part of the way you described it, I think, reflects on not playing against people that are very good at funneling. You can't just like ignore the duo funnel, right? You can theoretically if they're only, you know, focus on, oh, they're farming the jungle, they're coming back here to mid lane to pick up these minions. But again, a lot of the good ones, and Nero talked about it for Echo Fox's point of view as well, proactively use you know, the Braum and the Kai'Sa or something to also affect the rest of the map. So that only kind of works if one of the two teams is like sleeping, and that's why I'm super interested to see, you know, when they go against each other, because it basically requires more people to think like a jungler. And the jungler mentality has always been like every second is important, because every second you could be making money. You could be making money farming, or you could be making an effect on the map through vision or through ganking somewhere. So now, like, every single player has to do that. Whereas before, half the time, mid laners could be like, I'm supposed to be here in my lane with my, you know, guy here. Sometimes I'll go for a roam. Now, like 24/7, you have to have that on your mind.
Yeah.
And so it's like both sides of the matchup have to be good junglers. And the one thing I would say for North America, even though like we always import our mid laners and our top laners, and we actually have a lot of very good junglers. And kind of the jungler situation in North America, even solo queue, is like it's actually one of our most fought over roles. So I think we actually have a lot of possibilities there for you know, dismantling funnel in the way that you're talking about.
I mean, we had Fnatic versus G2, where Fnatic actually for 15 minutes did dismantle the comp.
I mean, to a certain degree, right? But it wasn't enough. Right?
No, but they got ahead. They were like, I was like, okay, they're going to snowball out of control now. This should not work. But then they made mistakes. And Perks got to move around, and they had a fight over certain objectives. There became a Baron fight at some point as well, where they stood in the Baron pit against like 3 supports, and they all died. And it was not great from Fnatic in terms of execution later. But they got early kills. So it is 100% something you can do. I think Team Liquid will be more successful than Fnatic at actually snowballing those early kills against the funnel comp. So I think it's going to be super cool. I just want to see G2 also play a standard game just to see how it looks.
We're going to break down who the second place teams are, but I just received a message that Drakos needs to take a quick break from the show.
Yes.
I mean, we have done like 45 episodes here, and no one has ever had to leave in the middle of the show.
I apologize.
Your
You have
first
to understand.
episode,
Never, not once.
and you don't know how to prepare.
Look,
Why are you leaving us?
I'm going to be honest.
Go to the bathroom before we start.
Shame.
Just go. Just
Shame.
go. Shame. You're not allowed to defend
I'm not
yourself.
used to this, man. I'm not used to this pressure, okay? Where do I go?
Okay, just go out that door.
Not in front of the camera!
If you if you don't have a badge, someone else will let you back in. Okay.
Goddamn
go.
amateurs.
3 people just came running to help the man go to the bathroom.
He is such a diva.
One to open the door, one to hand him some TP, and one
One pulling away from the camera.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a better show now. I don't think we're going to let him back
Oh,
in.
thank God.
Yeah,
All right, let's
we
talk
just,
about
like,
NA
take some
only.
space.
Kobe, I never got your TL. Who would you favor, TL or G2? They're going to play once in the group stage.
Oh, I've been favoring G2.
Man, we did this last time where
This
everyone
is going to
said
go
Fnatic.
really wrong.
You favor TL? You initially said G2, but then you
I think
gave a lot of reasons.
G2 on paper, but like you know
Okay.
when I'm just looking at it initially, but I do think from talking to some of the players and the coaches, they are confident that they can dismantle
Yeah,
funnel.
some of
but
the
I talked to
coaches,
some of the coaches,
Kane, I
and they
talked to
said
Kane,
G2,
and
baby.
he's like, yeah, Team Liquid, we're going to do really well.
It wasn't even Kane. So I'm putting my faith in some of these guys, and this way, if
Are
I'm
you trying
wrong,
to sabotage us?
they're wrong.
I want to go over
Players'
format.
fault, not my fault.
I actually want to go
Yeah,
over
that's
format
important.
because there's some cool stuff, and it's really hard to find exactly what's happening. So, whenever, by the way, so it's essentially single round robin, like every EU team plays every NA team once.
Yes.
But when the number 1 seed plays a number 1 seed or 2-2, 3-3, there's a 2v2 game to essentially decide side selection for that game. So when Team Liquid plays against Fnatic, who are both the number 1 seeds, they have a little mini game, and then you get to see choose a
cracks
side.
out the Janna.
And then 2 days of group stage, and then the finals is, we've said it's a relay race. But in very few places do we actually describe what a relay race is. So we did some digging. We actually found out what it was. The team that has the higher seed in group stage gets to counterpick the opponent at the start. So let's say theoretically NA wins group stage, since there's more NA people here. We're not even going to acknowledge.
No, he's not here.
Dracos.
Keep going.
Except by saying that you just did.
He broke my flow, Kobe.
Shame.
Shame.
Get the bell.
So
It's fine.
EU's going to say, okay, first game, we're going to throw out Splice. They
Yes.
have to play all 3 teams eventually.
Yes.
Once they see Splice is there, NA gets to decide which team gets to play Splice. If they think 100 Thieves
Because
matchup
we won
is
the
good-
group stage.
Because we won the group
Yep.
stage, obviously.
And it was free.
All 3 of those games happen. If it's 3-0, the best of 5 is over. If it goes on to a 4th game, then everyone's allowed to essentially play again, and the teams blindly send a team to the stage that doesn't get to be counterpicked. And then if game 5 happens, they get to blindly send the teams that didn't play in game 4.
And there was some
that's it.
misunderstandings among some of the pro players. The last few games of the final are not blind picks in Champ Select. Just blind picks in which team will face
They've
the
spent
other
like a
team.
week practicing these blind pick team comps.
I just saw some very excited players.
Aaron is just
like,
playing
oh, we
Heimerdinger
might get to
versus
try and do a
Heimerdinger.
blind pick one, but like that's not
I mean,
what
maybe
it
we
is.
we send in a rule request and say game 5 would be blind pick.
Who knows?
Oh,
Could
man.
happen. Also, really fun. It will be the first time on the caster desk that whoever starts casting the final might not finish casting it because it's being swapped in and out with all the different
Much
games
like the
happening.
teams.
Much like the teams.
That's exciting.
That's gonna be crazy.
Well, they for sure won't finish it because I think for the final, people are only casting.
Oh,
the
it's
first
gonna be-
oh,
day.
you're only doing 2.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, baby.
Yeah, so it's going to be the hot swap. But the 2v2 stuff is pretty interesting to me because I did the lounge with 6A and Bio Frost this last weekend, and Double stopped by, so I was kind of talking to them a little bit about it, and like I think people are picturing, oh my god, finally we're going to get to see like Reckless versus Doublelift on Lucian, and Draven
Nope,
and whatever.
it's
Well,
2v2.
it's 2v2, but I mean it's also, we might not get marksman at all. Like you could be playing some super cheese stuff like Pantheon Jarvan with Ignite Exhaust or whatever, right? Like you have to think about 1v1 when we did some of those before. I remember, some of the Russian players, I think it was Kira brought in like
Yep.
Grasp Caitlyn a year or 2
Yeah.
ago and was like doing really well with that. So it's like, this is not necessarily what it's a standard laning phase that you're used to seeing. You could do like, I don't know if our rules are to 100 CS. I believe that you can do that.
Yeah,
So you
it's
could
Howling
do-
Abyss as well, so there's brush.
Yeah, so like you could do Zyra and Ziggs or whatever and never actually fight and just try to win on minions, right? Like there's
turret
all
kill.
kinds of different strategies that you can go for. So I'm pretty interested to
Yeah.
see what people are even going to bring out, and also how seriously people took this. Because I guarantee you, there's going to be at least one like super try hard bot lane who has been like figured out the theory crafted strategy, and then
That-
others might just kind of roll in with like, I am playing press the attack Lucian and get
It's
flamed.
2 kills, 100 minion hits, or turret
2
destruction.
kills.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
guess
a
you gotta do
2v2.
both, of course.
Well, a lot of
So-
these players have been to All Stars, so like
Yeah.
they know it's a very different game. Like
But how much practice they're putting in?
there's no jungler, so it's just about being the lane bully, right?
The downside on this one for me is that like if people take it seriously, I just feel like it's going to be that Caitlyn meta where people just, unless someone blatantly makes a mistake, they're just going to slow
Caitlyn,
farm.
You can do all in,
Caitlyn
baby.
is garbage right now. What are you
There's no
talking
way you
about?
play Caitlyn.
No. I mean, yeah, sure, but like they'll find that Caitlyn equivalent, right? Where
I
it's a
think it's
champion where you
Zyra and
you
stuff
literally
like
just
that.
AFK farm or just AFK push, right?
Yeah.
But the best part about these matchups at All Stars was like when we found out that Mata is a good Yasuo player. Like that was the best, right?
We
And
can also have those agreements.
and that's what I mean. That's kind of what I'm hoping from the tone, because I know that this is important, that it has implications on the rest of the tournament, and I do want to see who's the best 2v2. But I also want to see who's the best 2v2 with not 2 champions that just AFK push, right? I want I want some fighting. I want some bruisers.
It's actually really hard to predict how serious teams take
Yeah.
Rift Rivals as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you can rank them all you want, but if one team has been on holiday for 5 days and then go on stage, maybe they're bad. Like I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, we thought this last year. How serious did the EU teams take it?
it
Because
felt pretty serious.
it felt
pretty
serious
serious.
last
Yeah.
year because you understand that the whole EU audience and the whole NA audience is watching you. So it's a larger game. You get flamed if you suck. You get praised if you
Yeah.
win. So those things do matter.
and your competitor. Like
Yeah.
once you sit on stage, and unless you're told this is a fun game event, like then you might troll pick and whatever. But if you're being told this is a tournament, this is actually serious, like players do sit down and they want to win. Like no one wants to lose.
And at least in my opinion, All-Star is a different example because you're throwing together these teams that haven't played together before in the middle of an off-season where there's just been a new patch. So like there's a lot less going towards it. But these are the teams that are in a competitive mode from week 3, moving into week 4. It's at the least you should be using it as high-quality scrims.
Yeah.
Right? And that's still, I would hope, and that's still competitive.
Outside of like, the 2v2, I think you're right, because I think that you want to make the most of this from an experience angle, because I think the thing is that we, like from an EU perspective, right, the fact that we played without junglers in our mid lane for half a split and you guys came and stomped us, I think was actually really good.
Oh, everyone learned.
And it showed a ton of weaknesses, right? And I think it put a lot of pressure like on players like Broxa specifically to step up, because that was historically a weakness for Fnatic that you guys completely exposed at Rift Rivals. So I think there is a lot to be gained here, at least in terms of the standard 5v5.
I think 100 Thieves, like you might not want to call it scrims, but they're essentially using this as a roster tryout, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is 2 players are swapped. You can say Onda's your starter all you want, but like if Levi comes in and looks incredible, then maybe they're a lot more motivated to actually find another sub, whether it's for mid lane or top lane, who cares? But like that is essentially his tryout, right? This is his big shot to prove that he can play really well in North America. I mean, you mentioned earlier, he's not been doing that well in Academy, but everyone knows Levi has been really good internationally before.
Yep.
So like if you slam this tournament as Levi and all of a sudden 100 Thieves is thinking, all right, how do we get this guy on stage in the LCS for our regular roster?
In addition, Echo Fox has talked about wanting to use other players as well in different combinations, and because Demonte was banned, they couldn't
lost
before. But there are more options if a bunch of teams start switching around.
I mean, I think you mentioned Levi. I also think Brandini. Like, if he has a great tournament, the gap between him and Someday when they play right now looks really big. But maybe if he plays super well, 100 Thieves might be like, okay, the gap is not that huge, so we can actually run Brandini and therefore use Levi, because the gap between Levi and Anders should also be fairly large, just based on player names. So I think there's 2 players, obviously, on 100 Thieves really trying to prove something, and it's smart they can actually use Rift Rivals to test this, because these players will be super, super motivated to perform.
All right. We've previewed it. We have a bet between N and EU that we decided we were going to do an
I apologize for
EUphoria
taking a bathroom
versus-
break. Did we get the power rankings, the top 6?
We got to finish the rest of the power rankings.
Okay, so number 1 is G2,
G2.
we think.
Yes.
Number 2,
Team Liquid.
over Fnatic,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah.
I'd say number 3.
I go Echo Fox.
I go
Yeah, I go
Fnatic,
Echo Fox.
baby.
I go Fnatic here.
They're pulling out this new player called Reckless, and he's gonna carry.
I don't
Who is
think
the
we're
only
gonna see
player
Reckless play.
in the EULCS that has played but has yet to pick up a kill or a death?
He was on Jana Kama. They are support.
No kills, no
You're not
deaths.
supposed to get that.
5 assists.
To be fair,
I
don't blame
watched
him.
Fnatic
Samix
versus
only
G2.
has 1 game where he has kills. He hasn't gotten a kill. Well, actually, I don't remember what game 6 was, but in 4 out of 5 games leading into the last day of week 3, Samix had not gotten a kill. So it's not that uncommon.
He has a kill now. I'm going to say Fnatic. They're the defending champs of the EULCS, whereas Echo Fox is 3rd place. I put Echo Fox 4, 100 Thieves with Brandini and Levi 5, and Splice 6.
Yeah.
We can agree on 6.
Oh wait, tell us about Splice, guys.
Yeah, they finished 3rd last split. Are they the Phoenix 1?
Also, remember,
of
Marty
Europe
is
this
probably
year?
watching the show because he tweeted us a question.
All right, that's for sure. 1, love you, Marty. Thank you for constantly engaging with us.
Yep.
We love you. We appreciate you as an owner. 2,
You also said their team sucked like 5 times.
No, the team does suck.
We did not say that. Word for word. It was not
I'm
said.
saying that. Splice suck right now. It's rough. The sad news is that Niski got a lot better, and like it really seemed like the team was starting to come together. But I think that their bot lanes really struggles in this meta, and I also think that Xerxes, the jungler, is the least consistent top European jungler we've ever had. He will, in a single split, go from bottom 3 to top 2 in like halfway through the split. It just feels like every split there's a change one way or the other. So maybe this is where he shows us that change and he becomes a monster again. But
I want to add one more thing. The drafting is ass. Half the games, I don't even think they know what they want to do with this draft. At least there doesn't seem to be a connection between what the coach is visualizing for the draft and what the players are visualizing. Like, they draft Aatrox, and then their jungler runs bot lane all game long, and Aatrox gets ganked and he dies, and then Aatrox is not very strong. And it's just like, that's kind of weird. And these kind of weird decisions, they have not adapted well to this new meta. They were like fairly slow team last split as well. Like, they had a super mediocre start to the split with the new roster. Took them time, then they got much better. Once they kind of locked down, okay, this is how we want to play. Kobe is a great team fighter, that's good. Niski in playoffs was actually individually good, but I think right now they don't have a clear strength, which is terrible when you have a bunch of weaknesses. Because there's a lot of ways then teams can kind of expose you.
They look so uncoordinated too. Like there's watching some of their games, there's like, your bot lane's already dead. You have like Odoamne TPing in, still finishing his TP and like trying to flank like 1v5 and stuff. Everyone else is running. Like there's a lot of head scratchers.
That's what I was going to point out is a lot of like coaching related issues, whether it is out of game coaching and in game leadership. Because the draft, even the drafting example you gave, them drafting something and the coach having an idea and then the players doing something else, like that's something the coach should be telling them as they get into the game. They're like, all right, so we drafted Aatrox top lane, let's go top. And like,
the stat that was hilarious was, I think this was week 2. Xerxes had 0% jungle proximity with his top laner, which is in the first 2 weeks.
0%. And remember,
never once
jungle
been near
proximity slightly flawed in the sense that if obviously the ranges aren't perfect in the sense that I can be on Krugs, and if you're walking to lane, I'll get jungle proximity.
They've just never been close to each other.
Never been close.
Yeah.
He didn't even approach his corpse.
Carries.
He didn't even walk by his dead body at any point in the game because that also counts for jungle proximity.
Yeah, I think of the UOL game against Splice where Niski's down like 50 CS at 8 minutes, and
I mean, how devastating.
I'm just concerned because
they did have a better last week though.
They did have a better last week.
They went 2-0 I think last
week. The
week.
Rocket win was not pretty.
Nope.
No.
By any means.
But it was a win.
It was a win, and Rocket had picked up a bunch of other wins against other teams, so not a terrible team that they faced. But I think, like, they go to Rift Rivals technically with nothing to lose in terms of how to perform because everyone is going to rank them number 6 with the record they have back in Europe. So hopefully they can use it to improve. But the problem is they didn't have to fly back to Europe. So jet lag is going to be a thing. You're going to miss more practice time. And if there's any team out of the teams who are looking towards Worlds that can't afford to miss any practice time, who's still behind in the meta and still playing uncoordinated, it's Splice. This will now remove more time from them, and then they instantly have to play. I think actually it's a pretty rough schedule they have in week 4 of the EULCS because they just played some of the bottom teams now.
They're still okay. They still played mostly. Remember the excuse we gave them for the first couple of weeks was like we weren't sure what form they had, was that their strength of schedule. And
because they did play G2 and Fnatic.
G2 Misfits Fnatic, I think.
Yeah, but still, this team needs to make playoffs.
Or Vitality, rather.
Like, they have to make playoffs. You get third place spring, you have to go to Worlds. Like, that there must be a goal.
They don't have to, I mean, even if they don't make playoffs, by finishing third, they're going to have enough championship points to make regional qualifier.
Yeah. They can do that.
They're going to be in regional qualifier regardless.
But if you're playing pretty mediocrely or like pretty poorly all the way up to that, like
then you're done for.
That's a huge. They got to improve.
But when your brain expands when you play the North American teams and this enlightening experience,
you're memeing, but I'm actually hoping that that's what happens here because like I do think
losing to NA is so much more revolutionary than
just
losing
like
to EU.
that they're going to learn something in scrims here that they're not learning scrimming in EU because talking to Odoamne in the last week, it just sounds like practice right now for them isn't super good because I mean obviously this meta you hear from a lot of teams that scrims already are notorious for just ending instantly if someone dies 2 or 3 times, right? And in a meta where, especially in Europe, where people are trying more bruisers and that's going to be more defining, I imagine it is a little bit difficult for them to sort out any kind of team communication issues or other issues if their practice just looks like some guy gets a solo kill and everything ends.
Yeah, let's go to Twitter questions, actually. We have one good one. Since we have NA and EU right here, we were just all pointing to the Twitter question to say that we wanted to do it.
Oh, that was the question?
That's what we were doing.
Funny part.
Nothing.
Yeah, that was not suspicious.
It wasn't that picture
at all.
of me, no.
So Joe, or at Goose, says, if the whole league blew up and had to be redrafted, who would your number 1 overall pick be? And I'm going to classify this into saying it's an EU and NA super draft.
Ooh.
Your first pick.
Ooh.
Tomorrow.
I feel like it's caps or perks.
Wait, because that messes up all the import
No,
slots.
hold on,
You're
hold
saying
on.
It's a super
draft.
league. There's
super
no
league. It's a super
import
league.
restrictions.
Okay,
It's a
okay.
super league.
Outside of Korean
No
players,
import
we'll see.
restrictions.
I'm definitely
There
getting
obviously
me a
be-
European
yeah,
mid laner.
So
Yeah.
I
But there's a
actually
lot of
think-
mid laners to pick from.
Maybe
I think
perks.
there's two ways to approach this. You can look at like the pure skill aspect, in which case I think perks and caps are front runners. But there's also so many players who are touted as like leading their team that I think could be incredibly valuable. Because like I've heard nonstop how influential Doublelift is on a team, and like how much he like teaches the people around him. Now, admittedly, I heard a lot of that from Jarge, who used to work with Doublelift, so probably holds him in reasonably high regard. But I think that just immediately going for the best mechanical player you have is not always like the best structure for a team.
And something that like so I immediately jumped to like the millionaires, but then you also like if you were really doing this, you do have to look at depth for each position, right? Like because if you're like okay, there's actually like 11 good mid laners
Exactly.
or
You
whatever,
can get one on the way out.
You can get one on the way out. But if there's only like 3 marksman players that you're like okay, well we really need that marksman, or only 3 really good top laners or whatever, then those should be your first picks. So it does get pretty complicated if you're trying to do like an actual legit. This is for sure the best one, but off the top of my head, it's probably something.
I'd probably go Huni.
Yeah, and
I
take
see
the
it.
import slot anyway because he's already in the league, and then you just get to fill it with.
Yeah,
and
and
then you
like-
can still
Yeah.
fill
Yeah.
it with a bunch of NA and EU players.
I think there's very few top laners you can get that will give you as much impact
That's
as
true,
what
yeah.
Huni is
That's
going to
true.
bring. And if you get like this is with 10 teams in my mind,
Yeah,
so
10
hopefully
teams.
there is still
so
a,
there'd be a lot of talent available.
there is still a good enough like you can get Power of Evil or something at number 11.
Yeah, or
and
Featherman
then you
or
get
whoever,
Huni as well.
yeah.
Like in terms of just overall roster, even though I do agree like right now in this meta, probably perks always,
Yeah.
but I think Huni's pretty
What
standout.
about AD carry or bot laner? Are you gonna go for reckless double lift, or are you gonna go for
I'm not
another
touching
like
reckless, that's for
Whippo
sure, with this
situation?
current
That's
meta
actually what I was
here.
thinking about because you brought up
'Cause-
Uni, and I was just trying to figure out like how valuable is flexibility as a player. Like because a lot of these players
valuable.
have shown that they can play and learn new roles and new positions pretty quickly in this meta and be comfortable with that. And I think that's a really cool skill. So I was like thinking about like where would I rank Whippo because he's not the best of the best in both bot lane and top lane, but he's shown to be pretty good, and to be able to fit into that role and learn that role quickly is a cool
Yeah, I
trait
think
to have.
bottom laner actually
hold
might be the
on.
most
Might be not
difficult
that deep,
role.
yeah.
Bot lane's tough, but even if this was asked at any point in the last like 2.5 years, you'd probably say Bjergsen, right? But his stock has fallen, I feel like, so much with TSM finishing 6th and then not looking amazing.
Plus,
right
that
now.
would be if it was just NA. Like if you also open up to Europe, then there
Oh
are
yeah,
more options.
I would not pick Bjergsen like
even like a year and a half ago.
last year. Also, I wouldn't have picked him first. No.
Unless you're thinking like in terms of brand and stuff too, right? Like
Oh,
that's
from a
that-
business
From a
perspective,
business standpoint,
yeah,
you just
because-
lock
yeah,
it
of
Of course,
in.
and that obviously changes things if you're looking, brand. And,
But it's also hard
Yeah.
because is it 10 teams? Is it 20 teams? If we're just
If
merging
we're saying
all
10
the
Sure, we're
teams,
saying
you
10.
know?
And I think it's actually right now probably between Perks and Huni would be my guess.
yeah.
So I would
I
draft.
can see a
safest
bot
bets,
laner
probably.
too. Yeah.
or double lift. We'll probably be
yeah,
up
double
there.
lift would be
That's a good
really
question.
good to pick.
Yeah,
it's a
it's
good
really
question. Yeah, I'll go Perks. Next question. The Cultured Lamnid says, to all, should any EU Rift Rivals event expand to have more teams in the future? Despite this Rift Rivals gaining attention, it's small in comparison to the other Rift Rivals competitions. Like, for instance, the Asian Rift Rivals has LMS, LPL, LCK, 4 teams from each. It's like this giant 12-team tournament. And they play like 2 best-of-5s to
Super
finish it
fun
as
to
well.
watch as well.
It's way more games.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I feel like we were put on timeout. And they're like, EU and NA, you guys are going to have to go there by yourselves. No one else wants to join
Well,
that.
who's going to be part of that? That's
We
one of
need
the things
one
with Rift
international
Rivals.
tournament where
It's
we
like,
feel relevant, Kobe. Don't take it away from us.
Like,
do you just make more N and EU teams, or do you
No,
try and like
no, no,
create
no,
a
no.
third rival region?
I don't think you can't create a
It
third
has to
rival.
be
Well,
NA
I mean, you
has
could
more
include
teams.
other things like Turkey or.
We're not rivals with them.
Yeah, we're not right. This is
But then you can
Rift
become
rivals.
rivals.
Yeah, exactly. Or like them
how it
versus
starts,
Europe.
baby.
Or,
I think
I mean, it would be Brazil then, and it would be like Turkey.
Just bring in like the OPL
coming
so
in
we
as
can all feel
well,
good
or-
about ourselves.
everyone beats
Latin
it.
America. Like,
I think it has to say NAEU. You could technically make it 4 teams and change the format, but like you do, let's say you do this is probably impossible logistically because you're trying to plan like flights and everything else in advance. I'd love it if they're like the first place team in each league as well as the 3 place teams.
Well, the
from last
current
yeah,
highest
so
team.
you don't have like some.
Oh, I would like
so
that.
that way like Misfits would be here,
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's actually
And then
impossible to do logistically.
TSM would get joined, but yeah, I had heard that the reason we can't do the current ones is because of visa issues.
Yeah,
and
it's
all
hard
that
to
stuff
plan.
anyway. So
I mean, without any logistical restrictions, that's good. But the other reason that I think that
we can Skype them in. We'll Skype in Misfits.
yeah, there you go.
They can play in 200 ping.
yeah.
That's everyone4th team. It's the 200 ping. We fly one of your teams over to Europe so they can play on
we
200 ping.
play here,
Oh
we
no,
play
yeah,
here.
sure.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that's really nice for the Asian Rift rivals, specifically with LCK, LMS, and LPL, is that like regionally they're all actually pretty close to each other, and there's not a massive time zone change wherever you're traveling there, which is NA and EU. I love our rivalry, but there's a huge like travel burden on the teams that are going. Like you guys experienced it last year, still beat us. Whatever, fine. Worst experience this year, clearly much worse because our jet lag is really bad. But I think that is something to consider. Is that it's difficult. This is a difficult rivalry to maintain, guys. You're not very close.
I like EU versus NA for Rift Rivals
Are
personally.
you holding your heart or just touching
sorry,
your?
Sorry. I just wanted to touch my own nipples.
Yeah.
Okay. I got turned on here talking about EU versus NA. Anyway.
This is a family show, Deficio. Please keep your hands to yourself.
You have your own microphone. You don't have to.
Yeah, I don't know why.
He told me at the beginning of the show,
Scripted.
don't you ever
I
touch
like EU versus NA. It's great.
Okay. What were you saying before you started
Whoever
touching?
has to-
Like,
Whoever has to edit this
because
audio is going to
there
be
is-
so pissed that there's just like
there is no
random-
third region to currently put into our tournament.
And I don't think there'll ever be.
No,
so.
probably not.
I mean, who knows? Maybe some other region
I mean,
somewhere close to us.
Brazil could just smash both of us at every international tournament for the next 2 years, and then we would be like, okay, Brazil is definitely our rival.
Yeah.
The Spanish National League gets so good, we just invite them to Rift Rivals as well.
We have a bet that we still haven't talked about. We need to lock
Oh, yeah.
this down. The EU versus NA Rift Rivals bet. You guys do like a bet every episode of EUphoria for some reason.
It's hard. It's
like,
really hard to keep up.
They were
this gimmick.
inspired by our original bets.
only
Wait, what would
pick
you- oh, the-
high quality bets. You guys do it too often.
No.
No, because
Yes.
the thing is
No.
it's only with you three. If you had a pro player guest every day, then
Yeah.
bets are great.
It's actually easy to do it every week as long as you reach out to your audience and ask them for ideas. And you just got to make sure that the tweets are out of the question. They're too lame now.
Tweets are lame.
Always has to
We've
be
escalated.
something where you film something, say something, do something on the broadcast.
Dress up like a
Whatever
cheerleader,
it
do a
is.
cartwheel.
It's actually really
We
cool.
actually did reach out to Twitter a couple weeks ago asking for bets for this EU versus NA, and the one we decided on was whichever region loses, they have to make a promo video for the enemy podcast.
Yes.
So that's what we're gonna do.
Enemy.
Which is great. By the way, the
Enemy,
person that
yeah.
suggested
Enemy
that,
podcast.
like, I think we already like replied to the person that suggested that. I'm sorry, I do not remember what their Twitter handle was, but that was a great idea. Like,
was a
thank you.
great
That was a
idea.
super good idea. It was a fantastic bet.
And
Yeah.
the promo, I'm sure, is for the dive is going to be great. Like
Yeah.
you guys are going to
I
do a
can't
good
wait
job.
for all the more
I
advertising.
have.
we have
have
some
full
good costumes
confidence.
for you guys to do it in, actually. Full Uncle
Yeah.
Sam.
We'll let you
mean-
take it back to Europe with you.
We have seen the original promo you had, and that quality was pretty low. So I guess we don't have a whole lot we need to beat. Like, you could be a cop on a table or something, and you walk in the kitchen and do some dumb stuff. So I guess we can just do exactly
I've actually
the same.
still never seen an episode of your show.
But
I'm not even joking. That's not even a joke.
I don't really watch the dive either. I'm not going to watch this
Good thing we're
episode.
talking to each other. Anyway,
That was like the freak aggression where you just go super random. You were like,
No.
and you're an idiot.
He flamed our promo.
I just said it was
did.
easy to beat it.
yeah. I don't know about you guys, but
Has to be at least 10 seconds. It has to be more than 10 seconds long.
yeah, it has to be more than
No,
10
like
seconds,
quick.
for sure.
Oh,
like
if,
a
we're,
30-second
if,
promo.
if you do it, you're going to want to do it well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
for
if I
sure.
lost the bet, I'm going to want to make the promo
it just looks bad on
for
you.
EUphoria
It just looks bad on
good
you.
because
Yeah.
At
they
least watch
need...
an episode. And
It'll
then
give
make
you
the
it'll give you a
promo.
sense of pride and accomplishment.
Dracos, you went to the bathroom earlier, so you get to finish the show.
Oh, God.
Goodbye.
Hold on.
We're gonna go.
Have a
to the
good one,
bathroom.
guys.
Oh, we're
wait.
all leaving?
Yeah.
Martin, you can't leave. You've already been gone for 2 weeks from our show. Oh, God. I'm Jat now. Hi, everybody. That's going to do it for this episode of Divephoria. Thanks again to Deficio and Drakos for joining us here today. Hopefully we can get the full roster back together sometime later in the year for another episode of Divephoria. Rift Rivals starts this Thursday, July 5th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 9:30 p.m. Central European Time. We'll see everybody there.